I remember getting flashbacks of it in April of 2025, so just last year.
Wow.
hmm
And before that, what did you think about your parents?
I always remember really, I felt like I had a closer relationship with my dad than I did my mom. Growing up, I always kind of saw my dad as the enabler to my mom's behavior. My mom was more physically abusive, just with the hitting, and verbally abusive as well. There was a lot of manipulation going on with her. And it was a regular daily basis kind of thing. So, I still wanted to be very close with my mom, but she kind of made that almost impossible because of the things that she would say. Um, but, I kind of just chalked that up to my dad being afraid of my mom because my mom was also physically abusive to him. Um, and that, then I found out later, just last year, that my dad was the one who was doing the worst form of abuse to us. So that was really hard to handle for me, learning that it was both my parents and not just one.
Okay. And tell me what your father did.
So he performed oral sex on me from, I want to say the earliest was probably when I was about 2. And then I want to say it stopped when I was about 5. So when I was about to go into kindergarten.
Uh-huh. Okay. And
Mhm.
did anything happen to you later?
Later on, um, he would get, he used to drink quite frequently. And whenever he would just like touch us over our clothing, and he would make very sexual remarks about our bodies, especially after both my sister and I hit puberty. Um, so, and that was the extent of what he would do, but he would make comments about, how like in his words, like how sexy very young teenagers are whenever they hit puberty. Just very disturbing things that I kind of blocked out whenever he would say those things. I never paid them much mind, but whenever I had those flashbacks late last year in April, everything started piecing together and making sense why he was saying those things.
What's the age difference between you and your sister Sarah?
6 years.
She's 6 years older. Okay.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
how do you know your memories are true?
A lot of things from my early childhood. Um, I had this dollhouse that I would have these little dolls that I would play with. There was like a mother and a father, and then a daughter and a little boy. I would, whenever no one was around, I would reenact that the father and the daughter were having sex. Um, or I would draw pictures that I remember of like an older man raping a little girl. And I was never taught how sex worked. I never had that talk with my parents. I never learned the anatomy of men or women at all until I was much, much older, about 16. So the fact that I knew the anatomy of a man before I was even taught about sex or any of that, that's how I kind of know, but also my kind of like my physical reactions to to certain memories or certain thoughts that I have, it's almost like paralyzing, the anxiety and the like the sadness that I get at random times whenever I think about, my parents. They make me realize, my body was holding on to that memory without me actually having a physical memory, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, even though I didn't actually remember what had happened when I was little until fairly recently, like my body was still holding on to that. And so there are a lot of things that I'm still struggling with now that, that kind of made me realize that it's all true. It's not just a dream. I was not aware that my sister was holding on to these memories for a long time. Like she had always known. Um, the first time she told me about it, I was in foster care, and she had told me a story of how whenever she was about 3 years old, someone had performed oral sex on her in a bathroom, and she had stated it was very specific. She was like, I don't know who it was, but I just know that it wasn't our dad. And I remember thinking, like, oh, that's a very odd thing to just throw in there. Um, and so in April of 2025, I was 4 months postpartum, and my sister and I would talk almost every night over the phone. And she told me that she was like, I have to, tell you the truth. That story I told you a few years ago, that was our dad. And I remember I felt like this sinking feeling, and it's like after she and I hung up, I just started having like these flashes of memories of my dad doing that to me. And it felt so real. And I've been processing these memories for a while, but she's been living with them her whole life. So, and we've been going back and forth sharing stories about, her memories and then things that I remember that I've kind of blocked out, as I got older.
Okay. And so you have a child. You have a 1 year old or
Mhm.
yeah, 1 year old.
She's 14 months old.